First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys get a tremendous amount of value from this, and as promised, you guys can ask me literally anything and I would do my best to answer. Now, Frank's done a really great job of putting up a lot of questions already, so I have some structured. I have a little bit of a talk to share with you, and then we can go wherever this conversation wants to go. Let me try this again.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Yeah.
I design sandwiches. My name is Jose Caballero, and I talk about the design of business. I talk about a lot of stuff.
My name is Chris Doe, and I talk about the business of design.
At the center of this operating system, it's about understanding.
Jose, can we just tell them what the show title is?
I hate you, dude.
You are watching The Process.
The first thing I want to talk to you guys about is there's a story. It's called the 5-monkey ladder experiment. You guys know about this story? All right. So I'll just tell it to you really quick because I think it'll kind of prime us for what we're planning to do tonight. So scientists gathered 5 monkeys together in a room, and then they left a ladder. At the top of the ladder was a bunch of bananas. So when the monkeys went to climb up the ladder, they would get hit with cold water, all of them. So over time, the monkeys learn not to climb the ladder. So as the experiment goes, they started to replace one monkey at a time with a new monkey. And what would happen is the new monkey, unaware of the situation, would go to climb the ladder to get the bunch of bananas. And then the 4 old monkeys would drag him down and beat him because they didn't want to get hit with cold water. They did this until they cycled out all the monkeys. So these were 5 brand new monkeys that have never experienced the cold water hitting them before. And they never went up the ladder. So what's the takeaway from that story? So there's learned behaviors that prevent us from doing what it is that we want, just because somebody said that's the way it's supposed to be, all right? So that's getting me into the Stephen Covey quote. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna keep getting what we're getting. So we're here to kind of learn some new things, to talk about these things. And based on my webinar that I did just a day ago, if we're not primed to kind of take in new information, keep an open mind, you're going to be fighting me the whole time, and there's really then no point. It's a waste of your perfect evening. We would all be really famous and successful right now, all of us. We'd have more money than we could spend. There's just one problem. We're getting in our own way. We have a lot of different reasons why we can't do what we do, and sometimes it feels like everybody is conspiring against us. And if we believe that and we hold on to that, we're never going to get out of our own way. I know people who are more athletic, better looking, hard to believe, and much smarter than I am, yet they're just struggling to make ends meet. They're living almost, paycheck to paycheck, because they can't get out of their own way. So let's like clear our mind for a little bit. We're gonna do a really quick exercise. It's not too woo-woo for you guys, I hope, okay? I'll tell you what it is, and then we'll do it together. It's just to clear our mind, okay? So when I instruct you to, what I want you to do is close your eyes, not now, and take really 3 deep breaths. And during that moment, I'll just talk to you a little bit about opening your mind and being receptive to what we're going to talk about, okay? All right. So everybody, if you don't mind, just close your eyes, play along. Even if you're not thinking what I'm saying, okay? So take in 3 deep, long breaths. So inhale, exhale. Okay, let's do it one more time. Inhale. Exhale. One last time. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, you guys can open your eyes. I'm just going to ask you right now just to be present in the moment, to forget about all the stuff that's happened before. I'm not talking about just the hours or the minutes before if you came in with traffic, but I'm talking about all the history, your entire life history. Just leave that alone right now. Let's just be open. Let's have a conversation, and let's look towards positive solutions, okay? All right. So a little bit of the money talk, I want to share some ideas with you, is something called success principles. 3 things that I believe in, and they're right here. Moderation, patience, and humility. Okay? We all learned that these things are traits that we should exhibit. These are virtues: moderation, patience, and humility. And I'm going to start with moderation. So the idea is everything in moderation, about achieving work-life balance. And personally, I think if you do everything in moderation, you live a life of mediocrity. That's just me. I'm an intense person. I want to go in all the way. I'm going to do well at something, or I'm not going to do it at all. And I think the problem is we kind of walk around in our life. We're okay at coding. We're okay at design. We're just okay at a lot of things. We're okay at exercising. We barely show up. We do a couple reps on the machine, and we're like, oh, I'm tired, and that's enough. And we see this a lot because I try to encourage the people who work here to exercise with us. And they always give you that kind of half effort. Not Frank. Frank gave it his all. And then you can see the people afterwards, they're all busted up. And that's the kind of intensity that I think you want to bring whenever you're doing something. The next one is patience. You know, patience is a virtue. And here's my take on this. You're going to see a pattern here. I'm a very impatient person. The most valuable thing that you have right now is your time. You've given me 2 hours of your time. It's worth more than the money that you're paying. So what happens is, for me, the way I work is I realize tomorrow could be my last day on earth, and I want to live like that. I want to live like I don't have any more time. So not only am I going to do everything intensely, I also appreciate the time that I have, right? So if you want to be successful, I think you have to start looking at time differently. Aaron and I talk about this a lot at lunch. He said, well, I can do that tomorrow. I can figure that thing out. I can learn that thing tomorrow. But I look at it like, you know what? Now is the time in which you have to act. And if you act accordingly, you're going to achieve the things that you want. This last one's going to throw you guys for a little bit of a loop. It's humility. We're always taught to kind of be humble, to not take credit for the things that we do, to share that with the world. And I think, especially in a room full of creative people, that's probably going to ring more true to you than the average person on the street. And again, I think you have to learn to love yourself, to appreciate the gifts that you have, and to acknowledge that almost on a daily basis. There's a thing that I did with Facebook Live, and I said to people, if you're not feeling really confident, write a love letter to yourself. Really congratulate yourself for the things that you've done well, and to use that as a daily ritual to reprogram your brain. My wife would accuse me of this all the time. I'd come home, I said, honey, I did this, I did that, and she would look at me and say, you're in love with yourself, aren't you? And that was an attack. And I smiled and I said back to her, yeah, I am. Because if I don't love me, who's going to love me? If I'm sitting there doubting everything I do, if I don't take credit for the things I've learned, how do you think I can stay up to 3 in the morning or get up the next day? Because every day is full of challenges and it's really tough. I need to use that feel. So when I figure out something in Photoshop, or I learn or read something or watch a TED Talk, I sit there in that moment and appreciate the fact that I just learned something new. And I'm going to get into a little bit of one of my strategies on how I use that experience and translate it into social media as an inbound marketing tool. Here are some of the questions that Frank has prepared for us in advance. So, what's the most effective way to generate leads? That's one of your questions, right? What's the answer to that question? Turn on your mic, dude.
What's working for us right now is word of mouth, and that's like
Right.
for us most effective in terms of getting jobs, but not in terms of like getting more into the quantity. It's like every lead we get is a warm one. At least we can close it or move forward. So that's what I say most effective.
Okay, so I'm going to assume everybody in this room is in some state like working, right? Like there's money, value exchange. You're either freelance or you're working for somebody or you have your own company. So let me ask you guys, I'll do a little poll here. How many of you guys say your number one source of generating leads is word of mouth? Raise your hands. Word of mouth. Okay, so there's a couple of hands that are down. So what are you guys using to generate leads? The ones that aren't raising their hands for word of mouth. What are you using? Trade shows? You go to trade shows? Yeah. And you get business out of trade shows?
Sometimes.
Dude, you're good. I don't need to hold the mic. What am I doing?
Do I need to hold the mic?
Yeah, you have to hold the mic so we can hear you. People complain on the internet like we can't hear the people in the background.
So I've done trade shows and events. So other than trade shows, like, you go to somebody else's event, like whether it's, I haven't done like for example, like a 5K or anything like that, but we considered things like that to get out to the community, to get the word out, which it goes along with getting the word out. but it's in a different way. You kind of piggyback on somebody else's thing, and then you get the word out that way.
Okay, that's great. You guys don't know Eduardo, but he's a more outgoing guy, right? You are, right?
Yeah.
You're not a shy guy, so he can walk into a trade show, talk to somebody, and do business with them.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, good. So we're going to ask you a little bit later what's a dialogue like? Like, how do you approach it? But not just a second.
Okay.
Anybody else want to share something? You don't have to. All right. Luckily, this question is up front. I don't know who put this deck together because it's up front, and we just did a whole webinar for 2 hours on how to generate leads. So here's the first thing I would like for you guys to think about in terms of lead generation. If you're waiting for a client to refer you via word of mouth, it's a passive way to generate leads because you have no control over it. Now, there are a couple of things that you can do to encourage your existing clients to refer you. And I'm going to just tell you what my business coach has told me. So the best time to do this, I think, is before the job is over. Because we all lead busy lives, right? We want to go deal with the kids or drop somebody off or pick something up, or we got another emergency to deal with. So when you're out of sight, you're out of mind. And you guys need to remember this, because are you sitting here thinking about your client's life right now? No. You're probably not. So if we say then the reverse is true, they're not sitting around thinking, how can I benefit Sean? What kind of work can I give Sean? Who do I know in my network would benefit by working with Sean? Now, believe it or not, some people are very competitive and somewhat insecure about referring Sean because they want to keep him in their back pocket. So they won't refer him to anybody, okay? Because it's like their secret weapon. He does amazing X, Y, Z. So what you want to do is before the job wraps up, while the feelings are good. Now, obviously, if it's a contentious relationship, this is not a good time to bring it up, right? Like they hate you and you're like, hey, by the way, you want to refer some of your friends? I would love to do work. So here's how my business coach told me to do this. First, you kind of open it up, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme, because I don't want to just go in for the hard ask, ASK, right? Because it's very uncomfortable. If you met somebody on the street and said to them, do you want to give me $10,000? Do you want to sleep with me? That's too abrasive, it's too direct. You have to scaffold, build up towards it. So you have to establish need, desire, then you can do the ask. Usually you can do it 3 steps. Right? So what I would consider doing is something like this. I hope you've enjoyed the work that we've done and feel like it's high quality work. Yes? Okay, assuming they say yes. Well, I'm growing my practice. Eduardo, what do you do? Your product? What I always forget.
Products.
Your product design? Oh, right. You're like, no. What are you? You have some complicated thing. I can't remember.
Oh, for Art Center?
No, for you. Like, what do you do?
Well, I currently work in a product.
Okay, can we just say product design?
Then go to Art Center and I for extensive, design to complement that.
Okay, let's just say product design, because it's complicated, right? Say like I'm expanding my product design practice. I've added recently another designer. I would love to do work with you or anybody that you know that need my services. Is there somebody you know that I could reach out to? And that's how you would ask. You just established that I have a need, I'm expanding my practice, there's room for us to grow, I like working with you, and generally speaking, people travel in similar groups, right? So if your client is a successful entrepreneur, chances are they know a lot of other successful entrepreneurs. I think Jack Canfield said this, and I'm not sure, he's the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. He said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. Right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so entrepreneurs, successful people, don't go and hang out in the high school. It just doesn't make sense. They hang out and do business with other entrepreneurs. In fact, they actually set up social clubs just to do that. Country clubs, exclusive. Entrepreneurs Organization, YO, Young Entrepreneurs Organization. Okay? They hang out together. So you can ask for the work. That at least puts that idea in their brain right then and there. They're like, yeah, you know what? Bobby, Mary, and Jimmy, you got to call them. I'll set up an email. You want to follow it up. And notice the way it's phrased is like, is there somebody that you know that I can reach out to? Because you don't want to just say, well, would you mind recommending me to some of your friends? They get in their car, they think about you, they have dinner, and you're out. So you got to follow up with that. You want to, as part of a sales technique, put some definition around it and put the work on your plate and not on theirs, okay? And then you can follow up with them later. But that's as far as I know how to generate leads based on word of mouth.
So what do you think about those networking groups for businesses?
Like which one?
Like any of them. I don't know. I've never been to one, but I've been thinking about it.
Jung, is it going to be that kind
No,
of hype?
I've been thinking about it, so I'm just wondering. I don't want to waste my time and go to those networking groups.
Well, you got to try. Remember I was talking about open mind? You got to try everything at least once.
But what do you think about it? I'm asking you a question.
Okay. If you go to a networking function like this one, are you guys going to get work from each other? Most likely not.
No, business networking where it's
Like
a chamber.
Chamber of Commerce? Is that what you're talking about?
I've been to a chamber of commerce, yes.
How'd it go? You got to hold the mic for it to work.
It was okay. I mean, it seemed like they were like, the one I went to the Burbank one, and it was very small businesses, and they were trying to network, and it didn't feel like they were really looking for like a design agency or an ad agency, because they're all mom and pop businesses.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this question. You guys can just give me a nod or raise your hand or grunt or whatever. Do you guys like networking? Does that term appeal to you? It seems kind of like contrived, right? Like we're gonna throw a bunch of people in a room and ask them to somehow magically do business together. What happens is, what you wanna do is find a connector. If you're gonna go to a networking function like that, find a connector. Somebody's gonna say, Bob, you need to meet Jung. He makes amazing extreme sports identity packaging branding. You guys will hit it off. So they know, they're like a matchmaker. They know a little bit about a need and a service, and they're able to put you together. Without that, I don't know how to do this. It's really tricky. And if somebody is a master genius person at a networking function who can walk away with business, please chime in, okay? Now, here's how I look at networking. It feels like I have a hidden agenda. So when I meet and bump into Amy, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, instead of just having a conversation with Amy, I need to ask for work. I wonder if they have work. And I make a website and I gotta sell a website. So what kind of real interaction am I gonna have with Amy? Not a great one. I would prefer, well, I'm gonna share with you how I do it and how it works for me. I just wanna have a genuine, real conversation with Amy and ask her about her challenges at work and life. And while I'm talking to her, I'm sitting there thinking, is there anything in there that I can do to help? Do I know somebody that can help Amy? Like a couple of years ago, I hurt my lower back. So I have a great chiropractor and acupuncturist. So if somebody hurt their back, I don't profit from that, but I'm gonna connect them. And so I'm building a real relationship, and that's really important. Now, luckily for us, just because of my particular skill set, there's very few people I meet that I actually can't honestly say I can help them in some way or refer somebody, right? So if we look at businesses, and I generally hang out with people who are in business or have businesses, they need probably a better looking logo or identity system. Very few people do I meet on the street and they think their identity system's amazing. They always feel like it should be better. And that's what makes them successful entrepreneurs. They always want to do better. And so I design identity systems so I can help them with that. I'm an okay writer, and I can help them craft messaging. So when I look at their website, I can say, like, I don't understand your website at all. What is it that you do? What value do you provide? And who are you talking to? And lastly, we know how to build websites. We also know how to make videos. And almost everybody in the modern 21st century needs a website and a video and an identity to go with it. So chances are I'm gonna meet somebody that can help. Does that sound kind of reasonable? So what I'm doing is I'm just engaging the conversation. I'm trying to find out if there's anything I can help them with. So the second question I'm asking in my mind right now I've established need. So wherever I go, I generally feel like there's a need. However, now I'm trying to figure out, can they afford me? And do I like them? Do I want to work with them? So those things are now going on in the back of my mind. If I don't like them, I don't want to work with them, I'm not gonna ask them for the sale. Okay? Go ahead.
I guess I kind of picked that up when I went to the Chamber of Commerce. If you do want to go to Chamber of Commerce, Burbank is off. You guys can't go there because I'm working on that one. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The thing was that I did pick that up was that when I started talking to people, it was they all knew each other. They've been there for a long term.
Yes.
And so it's one of those things. If you do want to go to a Chamber of Commerce, you better go for the long haul, build relationships.
There you go.
Like you were saying, and then you can connect with them. But like that first, we went once, and in the back of our head, we're like, get some business cards, offer our service, let them know what we do. It's just going through your head the whole time. So
right.
You got to go long term and
right.
develop that.
Now, there are events that you can go to where they're looking at actively buying services. Certain trade shows when you're the vendor, right? Like say if you're at a gift show and you make a widget or you sell patterns or something like that, that's a great place to do business. They're in the buying state of mind. Otherwise, it's kind of hard. You guys know that term, let's keep it in the family. Like, let's give the business to somebody that has blood relations with us. Let's hire somebody within our family. Well, the next best step over is the idea of reciprocity. Dr. Cialdini, the principles of influence, one of the principles, I think there's 7 principles, is reciprocity. And our society is built on the idea of reciprocity. You guys know what I mean? Reciprocity, to reciprocate. I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. It's how our society moves forward, okay? So when you do something for somebody, they want to even the score. They don't want to walk around feeling like they're freeloaders. There's a very small percentage of our population that is perfectly okay with freeloading. The rest of them are not. And in his book, he writes about this and how Hare Krishnas sustain themselves, okay? So the experiment goes something like this. They would offer you a book, free book, blessings, whatever. And then later on they said, do you have a donation? You got a book that you don't want, are not going to read, but you feel so compelled to give them money. Okay, so here's the problem. The books cost money and they're heavy. So the Hare Krishnas decided, we don't want to do books anymore. So now they give you a flower. So you see them on the promenade, when they're singing, they're handing you a flower. Now you have a flower that you still don't want, and it's just as effective. You will give them money again. So what he did was he followed them around, and he saw that he took the flower and threw it in the trash. Hare Krishna would come in, pick it out of the trash, give it to the next person. That's how it goes. Reciprocity. So when you genuinely help somebody, they feel indebted to you, and they're more likely to help you. So when they're thinking, let's keep it in the family, no family members, let me help Jung out. Right? He helped to pass the mic along, gave it to the next person, they're going to return the favor. That's how it works. There's many more stories within this book. At the end of this presentation, I will give you the resources so that you can look it up. Reciprocity. You guys understand that? Yes. Very powerful stuff. Okay? Now, it's worked for me because my financial advisor, over years, I've paid him lots of money to handle our finances. So now when I talk to him about the business that we do, he refers me to his clients. It's like we're just evening it out. You've given me money, I'll give you money back. You give me money, it just keeps going on like that. The rich get richer, and unfortunately the poor get poor. That's how that works. I forgot what we were even talking about. It doesn't matter. Is there anything else? Huh? Generating leads. Oh, shoot, you want to keep me honest about that thing right there? Okay, how to generate leads. So I was talking to Ben Burns about this. He's a good friend of mine now. And the question that people seem to ask, and he says it's the wrong question, is, how do I find better clients? How do I find better clients? He says the better question is, how do better clients find you?